Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Life Show. My name is Tyrone Brown Jr., and I have a special guest for this evening. But before we get into our special guest, I just want to say thank you to all of our continued supporters, those that continue to drop like, share, and all of those things. Because of what we're doing here, we appreciate it. To all of our Facebook followers and Twitter, as well as YouTube, thank you so much. And so we're getting ready to get into our interview, and I'm enamored just by the pre-story of this young lady. And so we're getting ready to get into a really good interview tonight. And I hope that you guys are ready for this journey. Um, I have tonight, and we're going to welcome to the Life Show podcast none other than Christen Stovall. How are you, Kristen?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well, doing well. I'm appreciative for your time tonight, and I just want to thank you for taking time to stop by us and give us your story. I'm excited about this. Aren't you?
I am. Thanks for having me
Good.
on the show.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I just want to start off by um, first getting into some of the things, the beginning of your story, and see where it goes from there. And then, of course, we're going to ask you about your writing and all of those things. We're going to get into all of that power pack stuff. But I want you to start where the beginning for you of it was.
Well, the beginning started with tragedy. I had started writing when I was in my late teens just for fun. And then I got into my 20s and at 24 met a young man, fell in love, and 3 years later we got married. But unfortunately, a year and a half after that, due to a traumatic brain injury and struggling with chronic pain and depression, he ended
Mm,
life. And I went
wow.
from newlywed to widow and had no idea what I was doing with my life or with anything because it wasn't just that he died. I mean, that was god awful, but like
Yeah.
everything that I expected and the life I planned, the children we would have had, all of that was just gone.
Wow.
Absolutely gone and devastated. And at that point, I turned back to my love of fantasy and storytelling,
Hmm.
and I heard a piece of music and just envisioned this scene between a young woman saying goodbye to her soulmate, and that gave me the concept for the soulbound. uh, that's the book of, oh my gosh, that's the title of the first book in my trilogy.
Okay.
And the soulbound refer to a magical order of women who can heal through their connection to their deceased soulmate.
Wow.
And from that scene, there was a book and then a trilogy and a prequel. And now I've co written an unrelated series with a friend of mine who's also an author, Jennifer Sanders. So I have 8 books under my belt now.
Eight.
Yeah.
Well, again, I'm so enamored by your story and how it all begins. How long was it before or after you got married did your husband, the tragedy with your husband?
It was a year and a half after our wedding. It was on May 1st. Yeah, almost exactly a year and a half.
And so with that, and you having plans and that coming to a screeching halt
Yeah.
now, what are you feeling inside?
At the time, I just felt absolute devastation. I
Yeah,
mean, nothing prepares you for that when you're still in your 20s and suddenly a widow with your entire life ahead of you,
yeah,
and the person you wanted to spend that life with is just gone by
yeah,
their own hand.
yeah.
And for a very long time, I was surviving, and that
Okay,
was it.
okay,
And bit by bit, I crawled out of it. But for a time, it was like a physical pain. Like it was strange because
Yeah.
it felt like if I looked down at my chest, there should be a gaping wound, and there just wasn't, but that's what it felt like. It was just awful.
Wow. Well, again, people that go through the most stuff, it catapults them to now want to kind of tell this story and including helping other people through this story. And so that sounds to me like it catapulted your mind and the way that you think, even towards, the fantasy world.
I mean, I've always loved fantasy, just like obsessively. I grew up in Kansas, so I was always looking for that way to Oz, the doorway to Narnia, some way
Yeah.
to get to Middle Earth. Like just always, and
Okay.
it became a comfort for me
Yeah.
when I
Yeah.
was going through. It was an escape, and I think
Yes.
that's the beautiful thing about fantasy is it can it can provide escapism while also
Yeah.
providing a safe way to work out what's going on in our real lives. It's that little bit of distance.
Yeah. And so it catapulted you into now writing this series of books. Like, what was that like? What was your thinking going into it? Did your mind you just allowed your mind to take over, or how did that go?
I did a lot of research
Okay.
and in terms of how I wanted to do it, and I did decide to do it independently, but I hired a professional editor because it was important to me that I put out a quality product, that I put out a quality book, and to push myself
Yeah.
and to grow as a writer and as an artist. And the first book, there was a lot of trial and error. I was learning how to work with the editor once the story was written. I was learning how to my ego and listen to what she said. And it
Yeah.
hurts, you hand your baby over and they just chop it to bits and hand it back, and you're
I
like,
fully agree. I fully agree. And then
yeah.
now, then actually, going through all of that trauma and tragedy, now you're moving into a place where what do you want your books to really speak about you?
Um Several things.
Okay.
For one, I do hope that it can help someone if they're struggling with the loss of a loved one, that it can offer hope or even just
Yeah.
escapism, that they can read the books and then read my story and go, someone does understand, I'm not alone, this
Yeah.
person gets it. You just
Yeah.
said that maybe they just, if it can help in any way, somebody who's struggling with that, or any kind of difficulty, I would
True.
love for that to be the case. I don't want my husband's, like, the worst chapter in his life to be the last chapter. So I want
Right.
people to want to know who he was. Because he
Okay.
was amazing and caring, and
Wow.
and he was a fighter, and he just reached that point where he just didn't have it in him anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I want something good to have come from that, and I want him to be remembered. And if, God willing, they're ever made into movies, I would love to get him a posthumous director's credit because he wanted to be a director. And so if I
Wow.
can just give him that, give his family that, that would be incredible. So,
Again, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking and hearing the Live Show podcast right here on the Live Show Network. Um, we're talking and interviewing Christen Stovall, who is a writer, a widow at a very early age. I take it. So, how old were you again?
I was 28, so I wasn't
28.
even 30.
That's just right there. You're coming into womanhood.
Yeah. Yeah, you're really
And
kind of feeling like you get the beat on being an adult a little bit, and
absolutely, absolutely. But I'm thankful for your testimony and you being able to spread your insight into those that may need your insight going through what they go through.
yeah.
And so I just want to ask you this. Is there a relationship now that you're working on? And are you able to kind of move on, or how does that go, or how does that look for you?
I have dated a few people, but right
Okay.
now I'm just very focused on my my writing and my career, and I'm not opposed to the idea of ever being with someone else, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not a huge priority for me.
Okay.
I'm embracing this journey that these books are taking me on. I'm
Yeah.
really loving it. I'm loving seeing where they're going, meeting
Yeah.
people. It
Yeah.
it's a wild ride, and
Yeah.
if there is gonna be anyone else, they're gonna have to be willing to get on the ride with me, and be
Go
comfortable
for
with
it.
me, be comfortable with me not being just like 150% about the relationship, because I am
Yeah.
fiercely independent and very busy.
Yes, I get it. I get it. And so now that you have these 8 books, those that are out there, can they pick up your book, and where can they pick it up from?
They can pick up all of the books on Amazon in paperback, and then the prequel to the trilogy, The Twisted Path, and the trilogy, which is the Song of Souls trilogy. The first book, Soulbound, is on Amazon and several other platforms digitally. The next two books in the trilogy uh, will be releasing broad on
Okay.
a lot of different platforms, and then the entire Fey Touch Chronicles, which is my co-written series, that's available on Amazon, but then it's available on several digital formats as well. So, and
That is
Soulbound
awesome.
has Soulbound has an audiobook as well. So we're working on getting the rest of that trilogy made, but it takes time to do that.
You're so well. I see that you have worked on your craft, and now having 8 publications. I know that that's not your end of where you want to take this. And frankly, I see this is just the beginning, because when you're so dedicated, to writing and sharing things with people, then guess what? In return, then there's a lot of people that you touch. There's a lot of people that you'll meet, and that you're actually meeting now. You
Yeah.
know, so this takes you to a realm that I pray that you're ready for. Well, I know you're already ready for it. Yeah,
I mean, I hope
no,
I am. It's thrown
well,
me a few curveballs through the years,
well,
but
well. This is why I say that, because you've trained in this discipline. You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? When you
Yeah.
train in a discipline, then it works. As they say, muscle memory. So
Yeah.
it works in that. And but you've trained in this, you've developed in this. Not just that it's the best walk, because this walk comes with a lot of pain and grief, until you can finally start seeing your way you know,
Right.
and that's where you're coming from. I love it. I love it. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Life Show podcast. My name is Tyrone Brown Jr., and I am sitting here discussing Christen Stovall. And here it is. Christen is a resident of Kansas. And so I know you all are probably asking, how in the world, does Kansas connect with Indiana? Well, I have to give you the hidden gem, okay? And I've said his name quite a few times. Not that I name drop, but I'm very grateful to this guy who took me when really, I didn't have somebody to help me in this industry. Steve Joyner, man, is a blessing. Good man, and he connected us together. So I'm very appreciative. But Christen, your story even goes beyond your publication. What else are you working on right now that is going to help um, build your legacy to what you're doing right now?
Well, I have two book projects currently in the works. One is a solo project that goes back to the world of the trilogy and sort of picks up after the trilogy, but with different characters. And then I've also started a new trilogy with my co writer from the Fae Touch Chronicles, and that's called the Sherwood Rising trilogy, and it follows Robin Hood's daughter.
Wow. Okay. Robin Hood, that kind of piqued my interest. Um, Care to
Yeah.
share just a tiny little bit?
Well, we're still in the beginning stages, so
Okay.
I don't want to say too much, but
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
we've got a few chapters written, and she's
Okay.
got a few things she's getting ready for, and we both are sort of exhausted because we got a whole series of books out very quickly. So our
Understood.
brains are slightly fried, you
Yeah,
know. Uh,
I get it.
but
I get
it follows Robin Hood's daughter,
it.
and
Okay.
then a cast of other made up characters, some of whom are related to historical figures, some are
Yeah,
not. And we
yeah.
do have a few historical figures in there, but we throw in some magic, adventure, some romance, just a mixed bag of everything that's fun.
I like it. And here it is. That's very kind of out of the box for you. I can tell that's very kind of out of the box. Um, you have a lot of different type of writers out there. I myself, I'm a writer. I have one publication that I did 10 years ago and co-authored it. But now being
Cool.
in the midst of the second book, it really is challenging my mind, channeling my intellect, my thought process. Because when it finally comes out, then people are like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't know he had that in him." But you know,
Yeah,
what?
that was a good feeling.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm proud to have you on. The You said you have 8 publications. Now we know the trilogy.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some other books that you wrote even beyond the trilogy and then the new projects that you're working on?
Right. Well, I wrote a prequel to the trilogy called The Twisted Path, and I did that in 2020. I was going to start the con circuit when the last book in the trilogy was out, and
Okay.
then 2020 hit, and there were no Comic Cons. There was nothing. And so I got to write the prequel that I've had these characters, at least the basic elements of them and the basic elements of the story in my head since I'd started the trilogy. So I went back and wrote that prequel, and it ended up being an almost 600-page beast.
Oh my God.
But it's probably one of my proudest books because that was the one I wrote for me. I wrote it,
Yeah.
I had written the trilogy, I'd gotten it out, and the Twisted Path was for myself. It was to push
Yeah.
myself and to really challenge myself to improve and grow. And I feel like I did.
Yeah.
And then I mentally cast all of my books. I always have like the actors and
Yeah.
everything in my brain. Not that the
Okay.
characters necessarily stay exactly that person, but it kind of helps
Right.
me
Right.
to
Right.
visualize. And I did recently get to meet the actor who I visualized as leading hero in the Twisted Path, and he was really, really cool. So that was
Yes.
awesome. I have a
Nice.
picture of myself with him, and I just look like a complete goober, but he was
It's
holding
like
the book, and that's
it's
enough
still
for me.
okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Toby, for holding that book up.
Wow. And so now that are there any other plans even going forward? Um, I know that you have a heart for women that or people that have gone through tragedy. Um, Maybe sometime looking at a organization of some kind. Could that be in the works as well?
I would love to be able to work with any organization that works with suicide prevention and just general mental health, just something where I could lend my voice and bring something positive to the world. Even
Yeah.
if I could do something where I help new widows, I
Yeah.
would I would love to do that. I would love to be able to just be a shoulder to cry on or a
Yeah.
voice when they need to hear someone when it's they just can't take the silence of the house anymore, you know.
Yeah.
So I would love to help more. I do donate signed copies to various like auctions or raffles whenever possible because it's just incredibly important to me
Yeah.
that my work and my books do put something good into the world. Like
I get that.
writing stories aside, like I also want to make sure that in some way I'm helping people and
Yeah.
just making the world a better place than the way it was when I left it. I hope
Yeah.
I managed to do that. I've just got my little corner and my little voice, but I hope that I can make the world a better place so that maybe
Well,
in the future people don't feel so hopeless.
well, here it is. Kristen, had you not been on the path that you're on right now, we probably never would have met.
Yeah.
But um, getting this outlet to where your voice is heard, and that's ultimately what it is through your books. It's allowing your voice to be heard.
Yeah.
And the message that you speak is so clear because here it is. It's a lot of people that go through issues. And so when you go through a trauma or a tragedy like that, it really takes you into a dark place. And I know that pain myself.
Yeah.
Losing a mother that was 60 years old, a month past her 60th birthday.
God.
And then to lose a mother that quickly, and it sent me in a spiral. I spent out of control. And so I can identify, not with a husband, but with a loved one,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And when you deal with trauma and tragedy like that, it
Mhm.
really, but you have to have something to hold on to. What did you have to hold on to during those times?
I have an amazing, supportive, loving family. I'm the oldest of
Yeah.
five. At the time, both of my parents were alive. My father passed away about 3 years after my husband did. But
Okay.
I have my mother, and after my dad passed away, I actually moved her into my house. So we call ourselves the Widow Warriors, and we mostly don't get into too much trouble. That's how the power tools come out.
I
We
get it.
usually manage with the power tools,
I
actually.
get look, I get it. And it's okay.
Yeah.
And so now your life, you're setting a stage. Have you made any guest appearances on any other is your portfolio building up to all of the audiences that you're touching now?
Yeah, Steve has put me in touch with a lot of
Yeah.
podcasts. So far, we're doing
Yeah.
podcast. I have done a few Comic Cons, and I
Okay.
actually got to be a guest at a con in Tulsa called
Okay.
TulCon. So I was a guest author there, and that was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. And I plan on going back because it's play on Tulsa and Tolkien, and Tolkien is a huge inspiration and influence for
Yeah.
me. So, and it was just
Definitely.
fun. It's always fun to kind of go and meet new people and
Yeah.
get to experience new things. And well, I mean, I love going to Comic Cons anyway. Now I have to work, so I don't get to do quite as many of the fun things I used to do, but it's awesome. It's nice to have like your custom seat though. Like there's a
Yeah.
chair if you're a vendor. You've got a chair for sure. You don't
Yeah.
have to find one. you know?
That is so true. So true.
Comic Cons are
And
not known for having a lot of chairs ready for people to sit on.
look, ladies and gentlemen, I am with my very special guest, Christen Stovall, who is from Kansas and is a writer, a widow, and then the tragedy that happened with her husband. Um, to have her on tonight. Look, we just want to show some love and appreciation for all of the things that you have come through and the things that you have accomplished are awesome, and I'm very excited to really see what your next move is because once you start rolling like that, sometimes you kind of get yourself into corners because you're putting
Yeah.
so much on your plate. So I know
Yeah.
that, but I know there's going to be something else, to come of this, and I'm really excited to see it.
Thank you. I really do believe that this is only the beginning because I'm not going anywhere, and writing is like air to me. I have to do it. I I don't think I could survive a challenge where I didn't
Yeah,
have electricity and couldn't write.
yeah, yeah.
So it's just that much a part of me, and
Right.
I'm not gonna give up. I'm very goal oriented, so like once I set that goal, I just go for it.
No, and there's nothing actually wrong with that.
Yeah.
In which I wish that there were more people like that, goal oriented, that will drive themselves even past tiredness. And I'm not just talking about, just to build financial wealth, but because you're working in your purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you work in your purpose, it's not a job.
Yeah.
It then becomes your lifestyle of who you are and what you're all about, what you want to give, and
Yeah.
you then become the person to take that role.
Right. And it's not that it never feels like work. It certainly does. It takes a lot of work and it can be very
Yeah,
tiring. And there
yeah,
are elements that one does not want to do. Like I will
yeah,
drag my feet when it comes to editing because I hate
yeah,
it. It has to
yeah,
happen, but I hate it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's just but it does become it's just different. Even when you're
yeah,
working to the point of exhaustion, even when you're doing something you don't want to do, it's different if it's your baby, if it's your
yeah,
passion, because there are currents of energy and drive that you don't know you have until you're going after that dream, until you've got
yeah,
that thing in your hands that you really, really care about and want to see
yeah.
succeed. So
That's
definitely do get
awesome.
tired though.
Well, see, this is the thing. I love to hear you even say that because it lets people know you don't get rid of the work. The work is always there, but now it's something that you're passionate about and it will drive you past your tiredness.
Yep. Yep.
You
And there
know?
there are parts that are boring. Like sometimes the building that foundation of what
Yeah,
you're doing, that can be really boring. It's not exciting work. It's just tedious. You got to get it done. You have to
yeah,
do the networking and building your marketing skills and all of that. And but it's so important not to cut corners because you
yeah,
might get a little perk here and there from cutting corners, but a lot of times it ends up creating a lot of different problems. So the best thing is to just learn your craft, learn it well, and
yeah.
listen to those who have been doing it before you because
Sure.
they're just invaluable.
Yeah,
But I did
yeah.
learn don't take shortcuts because it's not going to work out well for you.
So evidently you've tried it.
I think we all do, you know.
We tried
We
to
all like,
shortcut
"Oh, well,
around,
maybe
and
this'll work." No, it just cost me money.
it did. It did.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so thankful. I know you have some people that you want to thank, and about your career and people that have stood in your corner. Who are those people that you want to publicly thank?
Well, first and foremost, my mom and my siblings, like, they've always been so supportive, and my mom is amazing and
Yeah.
just wonderful, and she's actually in the other room. She can probably hear me saying these things,
Yeah.
but that's okay. She should hear. And also, I have some amazing friends and amazing people who I now call my friends
Yeah.
because of entering this field, who gave me just fantastic advice. One of them is AD Trusper, who has her own, like, several books out. There's a dragon, I think it's a trilogy, and it's great. And then like so many other authors who've helped me, who just sort of nurtured the little baby writer. And when you're a writer, the first thing you hear so often at like a con or an event when someone finds out, you hear, "I want to be a writer. I have a book I want to write." You're like, "That's great." Yeah. And then
So
they
did
kind
you?
of do that
So
circling around like they want you to write it for them, and you're like,
right.
"All right." Just
So
and it's
what?
great,
I
and I
mean,
hope that they do write
your
books.
response during that time. What normally is your response? Like, okay, well. Have you started yet?
I try to be respectful of their enthusiasm and their dreams,
Right.
and there are times when they start to go into like the entire plot and history of their world, and you've got other people coming up and wanting to talk that you're kind of like, oh yeah, yeah, oh okay, well what, you know,
Yeah.
and they keep going.
No.
You
No.
kind of have to jump on the pauses, but I try to
Yeah.
just mostly be respectful and kind, and
Good.
encourage
Good.
them. If they ask me, "How did you get started?" I'll be like, "Well, I did what you're doing right now. I went to a
I
con
just
and
started.
talked to an author, and he looked at me and said, 'So do it.'" So,
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
writing. Just start writing. Don't worry if
Yeah.
it's perfect. Just start writing. But
Wow.
your book isn't gonna write itself, and it's not going to be written by you telling other people you wanna write it. Like, the only way it's gonna be written is if you just sit down and do it.
Yep. And then they have, different devices now where you can, talk it out, or, so that it'll type it out. All of those kind of devices, you know, people are lazy, but now and I'm not saying that to be
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
jerk or
no.
anything,
Yeah.
but sometimes people are lazy and then they want other things to continue to make them lazy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
To
now
facilitate.
yeah, we're getting to a point, and even where you're from in Kansas, I do want to ask you this before we get off.
Okay.
But I want to ask you about COVID and what what were your thoughts even going in about COVID, and has it affected you even during that time?
Well, I mean, I think as with so many people at the very beginning, there was just sort of this level of disbelief, like, this doesn't happen here. It
Yeah,
was so completely out of my realm of experience.
yeah,
So there was like a slow process of it really becoming reality. And it
yeah.
definitely became reality when in December of 2020 I got COVID. So
Wow.
then I was very aware of
Yeah,
of just how real it was and how close it was. It was one of those things where, you hear about things happening in other countries and in other states and other cities, and it's so far removed from you and your life and what you're doing. And then all of a sudden COVID was everywhere.
yeah,
Everywhere.
yeah,
It wasn't far removed. It was your
yeah,
neighbor. It was a
yeah,
family member. I had family
yeah,
members die because of
yeah.
it. And after recovering from COVID, I actually lost a bunch of my hair just from having had a fever for so long. And it
Wow.
thankfully grew back.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, so and then I was supposed to go to Disney World for the very first time, and that got canceled. And so I wrote that prequel. It got to me to where I was sitting down and writing. I didn't have anything else to go do to distract myself.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think COVID was a loss of innocence in a different way than becoming a widow. It
Right,
was that,
right.
wow, I am living in historical time, like historic times. This is real. This is going to be something that people talk about, like the
Yeah,
Spanish flu. So it's,
yeah.
there was a lot of fear about it at first too, and that's where I think a lot of disbelief came from. It was just too much. You
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't you can't reason or negotiate with a virus. It's just there. It's
I,
just being a virus.
I
It's gonna
fully
do what it's
agree.
gonna do.
I fully agree. Well, I'm glad that you shared your story and your life, of what you have been through, and also sharing even your thoughts and your experiences through COVID. Um, Thank you for coming to this platform, and sharing with our audience. I'm definitely appreciative. And, you're more than welcome to come back at any time. You hear me, Christian?
That
You're
would be
more than
fantastic. And thank
you're
you for giving me the ability to come on and talk and give me this little bit of a platform. That's always appreciated.
definitely, definitely. You're more than welcome to come on anytime with any other books that you may have that you want to get out there. As soon as the new projects are out, we want the exclusive.
All right. Well, I have a
I'm
co-author
just,
too. Maybe I can convince her to come on as well.
see, now we're making some headway. Yes, you are definitely welcome to come on back at any time, and even share anything that other things that you want to do, that you want to partner with us, because we're a network, and so we network with different people to make sure that the dots are, that the dots are
Connecting.
crossed. I mean, the I's are
Yeah.
dotted and the T's are crossed, and
Yeah.
you know, here it is. We connect the dots. So
Yeah.
I'm very appreciative. Like I said, Steve, that's my main man. When I when I tell you he came through right in the nick of time, I'm so honored to have you on. Again, look, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Life Show podcast. My name is Tyrone Brown Jr., and you have just witnessed the interview with writer Christen Stovall. And Christen has told her story right here. So look, watch this, watch this. You can go and share it. Go and share it with all your friends. Tell somebody about this young lady, man. I,
Please.
Christen, I'm trying to tell you because they need to know. They need to know about you. You
Oh,
know,
thank you.
and so I wanna ask you all if you would please do me a favor. I'm not asking for no money. What I'm asking for is for you all to share this as many times as you can. I'm not trying to. This is not about the life show. This is all about the stories from life. This is a life story right here, and she was able to share it here on the Life Show podcast. So I'm telling you all, things are going to get much and much better as you see it from this perspective. You all knew the beginning. Christen, we just surpassed our 2-year mark that we have been podcasting.
Oh,
And so
congratulations. That's
thank
awesome.
you. Thank you. But I'm so glad that you guys have joined us tonight. Next week, we really got another great interview. I'm gonna tell y'all about that a little later, okay? But we have a really great interview that's coming into the studio. She's coming in. All right. Well, I just let a little bit of the cat out the bag, saying she. But also, this coming Sunday, I will be doing the podcast from Galax, Virginia. Y'all ain't never seen. This is gonna be real good. Okay, so you guys have got to be here on Sunday at 5 a.m. Even if you look at the recording, 5 to 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. And then next Wednesday, we will have a really good interview. Y'all gonna like this. Y'all gonna look, tell somebody, share this. Like I said, keep the love going. Don't give up. Don't give in. Man, your help is round the corner. Just wait and see. I am Tyrone Brown Jr. Man, y'all have a safe one. Peace.